All right, what's going on, everybody? Adam here from BlackTop SmackTalk coming to you live. We are back. Happy summer to all of you. We're about to go into the fall. Got a special episode today. A guy that I truly, truly adore. A guy that I really respect. I looked up to. I actually, believe it or not, for most of you, I coached with him for about 3 years, and he's been a brother of mine for since we became fellow coaches, man. We got newly assistant from Washington State University, Donald Brady here. DB, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm always ready to jump on and talk hoops with you. I love it. So it's great to
Oh,
be here.
so all our followers, man, it's good to have you back. To all our followers, Coach Brady was actually one of our inaugural guests back in 2018. He did the coaches roundtable with us, and we had a good time. But as you guys know, he's evolved over the years, and we'll get into that in his coaching journey here in a little bit. So, uh, on the last pod, we talked about, I'm sorry, let me take a time out. First and foremost, this pod today, I'm on with Coach Brady. I mean, we coached a lot of great young men for the last, not for the last 3 years, but we coached together for 3 years, coached a lot of great young men. But tragically, one of our former players had passed away in the beginning of this month. So this pod is dedicated to our former point guard, Ben Steinbrook. Ben, you're in our thoughts and our prayers. And I just wanted to shout you out, man. We miss you and, we're thinking of you. So just wanted to do that first and foremost. And,
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the greatest people we ever coached, right? I mean, he was just an unbelievable person and touched so many of our former players. We've had the opportunity to talk to a bunch of guys through the course of this, and
yeah,
he was a good one. He was a great kid.
nah, he was, and he was like, it was kind of like, and I have a question that'll lead into that later, but
Yeah.
when I think back on that when in coaching alongside, it was kind of like you're kind of looking in the mirror, so to speak. You're like, all right, that's
Oh
the
yeah.
guy because you yelled at him as much as
Yep.
anybody. And but I think you saw, from my vantage point, you saw a lot of you in him.
Absolutely.
And
You got me
that's what,
crying right off the bat, Adam. You got me
oh man.
crying right.
But
But
that
yeah,
was the crazy thing because your guys' relationship and bond was so unique and it was so dope to see. And he was just like, and it was like he would come to you, and then if he just was super frustrated with you, he would come to me and Tone or your dad.
absolutely.
It was just like, you're like, man, what am I doing wrong? What I was just like, hey, man, just chill, bro. DB knows what he's talking about, man. You're good. You're good. If he wasn't yelling at you, then he didn't care. But just take it as a sign that, you know, it's
Yep.
what he expects
I
from us.
mean, and like as my dad was my high school coach,
Yeah.
and you know our relationship better than anybody because you had to sit next to it for those 3 years. But I think the closest relationship that I had coaching wise, where like that was similar to how my dad coached me, was
Yeah.
the way I coached Ben.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, like Ben had to deal with a lot of shit because of it. Because yeah, like what my dad did was he knew he could get on me, even if it was somebody else's fault. He knew he could
Right.
get on me, and I would take it, and I would just roll with it. And there's one player I can look back on where that's what how our relationship was. It was him, and there was obviously like so much love and respect, and we had built up a really good relationship. He's probably the kid who was closest to all of us on staff. Like we all had these great relationships with him, including my dad. Um, but he's the one for sure that like with that group, he took the brunt of a lot of issues, and he was really probably never the one that was a problem, but
Yeah.
he had to, he had to take it.
Right. I mean, shit.
Yeah,
He was a co-captain with Dooley, and we
yeah,
did put a lot on his plate. Actually, in both years, we put with the 2 years he
yeah.
played for us, we put a lot on his plate, and he just did his thing. He was a leader and guy. He was really like a magnet, and guys really connected to him. So
Yeah.
it was an honor and a privilege to coach him, and we're definitely we're definitely gonna miss him.
And
Um,
I think that's the biggest thing about him, both as a player and a teammate, but then as a person, you see it from, just the varied lives that he touched, just from all backgrounds, all ages. Like he had an unbelievable ability of making you feel like you were the closest person to him,
right.
and really giving you the respect and treating you that way. And so I think, everyone who knew him feels like they had this amazing, and they did have an amazing relationship with them because he was just that type of guy. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it because I don't think I could have gone 45 minutes without talking about him.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah,
no,
definitely. But
yeah,
I actually wanted to start Astro Online because we kind of got into your transition from an assistant coach in our, in our last pod. So y'all go check that out.
yep,
It's like one of the very first episodes that we did. Yes, but for, let's talk about that specific season. We had the first season where we, you pretty much got hired on with a brand new staff. You hired me. You had a brand new staff. We had to get new players. We had to get new recruits. And then that first year we had a solid squad, but through injuries and eligibility stuff, we were like right there. Oh
yep,
no, yeah, we were right there for that first team where Tone was
first
coaching
year,
us. And then
yep,
the next year we got, that was Ben's first year. We had Ben, Derek, we had Joe G, we had, Big Will.
Gadisa, all those guys, yeah,
Yeah. And then going into that last season, we missed the playoffs by a game or two. So talk about that. That you're our essentially our last year. It was crazy. I'll just name that. It was crazy from the start because we didn't, we weren't sure we about some of our guys coming in after break. You know how it goes. We had to wait for the first quarter to see how they do in the classroom, and then we had to kind of mend, kind of be stable until we got our big guns, and then from there. So just kind of talk about like that whole season in a nutshell, where we made storyline history. I don't know if you guys can see. This is the first time I've worn this shirt, by the way. It's 7 years old. I've not worn this shirt. Shout out to Nick who gave this to us. But yeah, we won the league championship, the fourth one in storyline history, and we were successful. Coach Brady was the coach of the year. Shout out to Dana, who was player of the year. Dooley was defensive player of the year. But yeah, just in a nutshell, just kind of talk to us about that season.
yeah. I think that I thought that second year we were ready to make a jump, right? Like that middle year where we had a lot of these guys as freshmen that ended up being a major part of the team as sophomores. Um, but we had so many injuries. We just never, I don't think we ever started our full starting five at any point. We'd get like Ben would come back and then Gadisa would get hurt or Skyler would get hurt or whoever, one of our guys would just be
Derek.
injured and we just never quite, yeah, Derek was out. We never quite had the whole group together. And that year was really tough because like there were times where I just like, we're better than this. Like we did a good job. We brought the right guys in. We just haven't had them together. And so going to that third year, I felt pretty good about our group, right? Like I mean, that was one of the deepest teams I've ever coached at any level. Where I mean, we legitimately could go 13 guys could get on the floor and play for you.
Yeah.
Um, and there were games where we played 10, 11 guys like good minutes because they just we had a lot of pieces and that group played really really well together and so going into it I felt good about it, right? Like I think the big question mark of like what was our ultimate ceiling was, are we going to have Dana? And when we did, and we kind of I think slotted everybody into the position that they probably should be, and I think Ben had kind of solidified himself as the leader of that group, along with Dooley, and Drew and all those guys. But like we just kind of all the roles fit really well. And it still took us a while in league, even, right? Like I think we lost maybe two in a row. I remember the game we lost at Bellevue. We lost at Bellevue and had like a tough talk afterwards.
Oh,
Um, you remember that little in that tiny little locker room
tiny ass
with
room,
all
yeah.
that, yeah. Um,
Where you actually
and from
alert.
that,
You were so mad. You were so
yeah,
fucking
I was
mad.
mad.
You just
Well, because
bounced.
we were up like 20 at halftime, I think, right? Like we were rolling, and we just kind of like they just came out, and we I think we were the better team, no doubt about it, on paper, and they just kind of they kind of punked us that second half, and it was tough. Obviously, there's some personal stuff there too, because that's where I've been and all that, and I know
Yeah.
those guys. So, um, but I think that loss really hit home with everybody. We kind of doubled down and really refocused that second half of the league. And yeah, I mean that group was when we lost that playoff game. I will never forget sitting in that room in Everett and kind of just trying to process what had happened. And I remember looking at Dana and looking at Drew and being like, I don't know if I'll ever coach anybody as talented as those two players. Like, I just don't know. Um, and it was tough, but that year, I mean, I think it's funny because I've gone through, last year at Easter we went through a similar thing where we won the regular season by about 3 games, I think, last year. Lost in the first round of the conference tournament, and it's like you put so much into those 2 months of that league season, and it can just fall apart in one night. And so I think one thing that year taught me, and a number of these years coaching is like that just doesn't matter. Like it was great. Winning's great. Obviously, like that's the most fun thing that you could possibly be doing as a group. Like that just makes everything a little bit better. But it really is about the people and the process. And like if you lose that, I think all of a sudden those losses that could happen any night really become a lot harder.
Yeah. No, for sure. And to piggyback off of that, we were successful in I feel as though that was our best year in terms of off the court too. We sent
Yeah.
any guys to the next level. I mean, between you, me, and Tone, we kind of became known for the school to that sends players to the next level. And, we had players from other schools reaching out to us to help transition that. But
Right.
I felt between the relationships we built and the how the kids, the young men were successful on and off the court. A lot of guys went on to play at the next level. All of them at least got their AA degree, and then, they moved on. So that's one thing that on top of winning, that's one of the things that I find most successful is like what we did for them as young men, as opposed to like, yeah, we taught you the game of basketball, but we taught you how to be better, but it's like we're trying to teach you things of life. And so that's where I mean, it was my last year, officially like on the sideline. So that's why I'm so like, I hold that team real close because it was a special group. I've
Well,
had special groups, but that was a special group.
no, it was a special group, and you're right. Like I don't know, like 9 or 10 of them went on to play at the next level, at different levels, but they all had opportunities, and um, and that was the thing. I think like that is the ultimate goal of that level. Like again, like it's the people, it's that team environment. It's that season that you're together that you build these relationships where we still talk to a lot of these guys to this day. But then at that level, if you can give the opportunity to also you know get them where they have an opportunity at a degree. I mean, I think the greatest thing ever is Dooley. Like Dooley going to the next level, playing, having a successful career, getting his degree, and where he is now. I mean, it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so those guys, Tone. I mean, like the guys that we had at that time. Yeah, I mean, I think about them all the time too, because just like for you, it was your last few years coaching on the sidelines at that level, and for me, it was my first few years as a head coach. So it's like that we're always going to look back at those teams, I think, and think fondly of them. But I think also what you talked about and what I think was a great byproduct of that is like I go to Bellevue, you still helped all my guys at Bellevue get moved on, right? And that was I think because we had good guys, we had guys who would go wherever they're going to go, and they're going to at least give you what they're supposed to. They're going to work hard, they're going to go to class because it was instilled in them, and because again we got a little lucky, but we recruited good guys, like we had good kids, and that's I think always the biggest key if you could do that.
At our level, it you know, definitely, or at the level we were at the community college level, which isn't even national JC for all of our fans. Community college and junior college are two completely different things. So, I think, but again, coach, I think it just stems from you. You put an incredible staff together with your dad and Tone. And shout out to Tone. And to your dad, man. Shout out to Tone. That's a brother.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Like I talk to him almost as much as my wife. I talk to him all the time. So, shout out to him. But nah, it's just the leader of men or young men, and I think that you have those qualities, and I think that's kind of gonna transition to my next thing. So from Shoreline, you're like, all right, Bellevue opened up. You made the move to Bellevue. And now that kind of came with some, were an assistant there for 5 years. You replaced Coach Eggers, who became the AD, and he's had a historic run as the head coach. Kind of tap into like the feelings of that and kind of putting your stamp on Bellevue basketball from when you were under a different system, and how things were ran, environment. No, I don't want to say environment, but now you want to put your own like stamp on it. So you were at Bellevue for the next up until Eastern. What was that, 5 years?
6 years, yeah,
Right.
6 years. Counted the COVID season, 6 years.
So this is for the next
Um,
6 years. So how talk about that transition, and how long did it take you to feel comfortable to where you were like, all right, I'm not trying to be Jeremy Eggers. I'm trying to be Donald Brady. I'm trying to establish myself as a Bellevue legend, or create a culture here and not what the previous regime had.
yeah, I think it took me a long time to be honest. I think I, I think one of the great things about being a head coach, I became a head coach at 30 years old. Um,
Damn, we
and
were
I frankly had, yeah. Well, I don't know. I was 30. You were younger than me because
no,
I'm 40.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but I'm like 2 weeks older, but you were 30? Huh.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
So when we started, I turned 31 that year. But yeah,
Okay.
I I look back at it, I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, frankly, like if it wasn't for one, like you talked about our staff and the fact that we had good players, I didn't know what I was doing. I think I had a great staff when I went to Bellevue too. I still had no idea what I was doing. And I think those early years, especially, I really relied on the talent of our players um, to be successful. Um, and I don't think I ever really figured myself out as a coach. I don't think I think it took me a while as a head coach to accept that it was okay to kind of to be me, just to just embrace that, and that was it. And take it or leave it. We're gonna I'm not back at Shoreline. Like Shoreline players probably think this is crazy, but I'm not a screamer. Like I'm not a yeller. But back at Shoreline, I had my moments for sure. Um, I think early Bellevue, I had my moments, but eventually kind of, I think, grew into my personality as a coach. And we had some success those last 3 years where I realized, like, oh, I can be this way. This is okay. It's okay to coach the way I want to coach and be the way I want to be just because I was taught a different way, you know, because we grew up being yelled at by coaches. Like, that's just the reality. Um, so kind of, I'll be honest, it took me some time. It took me some time. And I look back at it and I just think like, becoming a head coach at a young age is it teaches you so much if you get the runway to stay with it, right? Like Jeremy Eggers, I had a terrible year at Bellevue. Like I should have probably lost my job. And I might have been saved by COVID, to be honest. Like COVID hit and probably wasn't a good time to try to go find a new coach. And I had some time to really reflect during that 6 months where we couldn't really do anything, and came back with the acceptance of like, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well do it the way how I am, right? Like I might as well be myself. And win or lose, like it's not the end of the world. It'll get figured out. And then from that point forward, had more consistent success, right? Like I thought, obviously, we had one really great year short. I thought we could have had two if we didn't have injuries. Um, the Early on at Bellevue, we had a great first year, and then just kind of slowly just had some years that weren't we didn't reach our ceiling. And I think that, honestly, it was on me. It was fully on me because I wasn't coaching. I wasn't being real. And once I finally just decided to be myself and accept that that was all right, all of a sudden I became a better coach. So
Yeah.
it took me a minute. Like it took me a while. I think it took me 6 years as a head coach, 7 years as a head coach to really figure out how I wanted to be and figure out how to be successful being that way.
Right. And but once you started to figure everything out and post COVID, those last 2 years you had at Bellevue was a historic run. You made the championship in 22, and then you went on to have a historic run in the NWAC tournament. You beat North Idaho, which was by far the biggest upset of the tournament. You beat
Yeah.
Tacoma, uh, Columbia Basin, and then your rival Everett in the finals. Um, so so talk about you fell short of the goal of winning that previous year with like Maui and stuff, and then the next year you have Profit coming in and Owen and then so talk about that transition. It's like, all right, you kind of fell short of the goal. So what was the mentality like going into the next year? And then kind of talk to us about that historic run, making,
Yeah.
winning the championship.
Yeah. So that group with Maui, we had Maui. It was a really talented group with Maui at point, Ben Olson, who actually ended up walking on, going back to Wazoo and walking on again.
Right.
We started, Aiden Jansen and Bishop Tosi, who both came, they were freshmen. And then Nate Johnson, who's gone on to have a really good career, minus a couple injuries at Redlands. Another team that was super deep, right? We were able to come off the bench with that team and have, talent off the bench, different roles, but really good players. I think for me, losing that game was awful. That championship game.
Yeah.
We had just beat Wenatchee, which was like a really big deal, right? They had Isaac Jones, they had Anthony Roy, they had these two very big time players, and they'd been running through everybody. The only team that they lost to actually in league was Yakima, who we then faced in the championship. So like we came off this great big time win. We are up at half at Yakima, and then we just kind of ran out of gas. And but after that loss, like I was sad, right? Like I wanted to win that championship, and I wasn't sure again would I ever be back in that situation. Like I may never come back to a championship game, but I was okay, and I think that kind of allowed me in the next season because we didn't have a great start. We were kind of up and down to start the year. It was a very different team. We returned two starters and we returned some of our key like role player guys. But we just were still feeling each other out and feeling out who should be playing, who was our starting lineup. Like it took us a while early on to get going, but I do think that that experience of kind of making that run but of losing and realizing like again everything's fine, like it's going to be okay, allowed me to kind of and allowed us to kind of be calm
Yeah.
about that early start. Once we got into the tournament though, we were clicking. We had been clicking that second half of the league. We went 6-1 the second half of the league. And the only loss we had, we were at Peninsula up 17 at the half, and just we should have never lost. We should have gone undefeated. Oh, you know what? Maybe we did. Maybe Skagit got us too. No, I think we were 6-1. No, Everett got us. Everett smacked us actually. So that's what it was. We were 5-2. We should have beat Peninsula, but they were really good that year, and they came back and earned it. Everett smacked us at home. We lost by like 25. It was a terrible game. Um, when the draw came out and we had tied for second place in the league, but because of the tiebreakers, we were going to be fourth. And I knew we were playing the East and NIC, who was undefeated going into that game. Um, but I'll say it like that team was really great at game to game planning. They were very smart. And a lot of it was Bishop Tosi and a lot of it was Aiden Jansen, our two returning guys. Um, we had made a change about halfway through the year to start a freshman, Sayer, who could really, he just again kind of put us in all the right spots, right? Um, and then Owen and Prophet were just tough. Like, so we had the most talented guards in the NWAC. So it's like that five was really good. And then we only had 8 guys at that point, but every guy off the bench knew their role. Like they knew why they were on the floor, what they were supposed to be doing, and we just kind of gelled right at the right time. We had an amazing we had a really good game plan for NIC, but the way we executed it was crazy. And if anybody like you go back and watch it, the very first play of the game, Aiden, who's our Australian kid, who's probably one of the smartest players I've ever coached, and I would say after we lost the year before, he came out to me and he looked me dead in the eye and said, "We're going to win this next year," straight up. And like when that kid says something to you, you just believe it. Like he told me right there, "We're winning the championship next year,"
Yeah.
and he was right. I mean, he literally willed us to it on his own. But the very first play of that game, we're not supposed to be. We changed we completely changed our defense for that game. We decided we're never going to help because these guys were shooting like every guy on their team was shooting like 50% from three. They were making like 14, 15 a game. Like we can't give up a three. If they give up a layup, whatever, we'll live. Just make it tough, whatever. Very first play of the game, a guy drives and Aiden naturally goes to help and leaves a wide open shooter. And you see our whole bench jump up like they're holding him accountable.
Yeah.
Like Aiden, like and he like flies out and contests. And the guy misses it, and he looks at everybody and he's like, "My bad," and we didn't do it again. The rest of the night, we didn't. We never helped again. We just gave up twos all night and just lived with whatever was going to happen. And no, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen because we did like we couldn't score on them. They were good. We
Yeah.
scored like 52 points, I think, to win that game. Like it was a low scoring game. But that execution and that understanding of like team accountability, where like our point guard even heard all your shish. You see him, he's upstanding, like pointing at dudes, like calling out rotations. Like it was just a locked in group. Um, it was good. I mean, Como was tough because they make things hard. Um, the Columbia Basin game, it was a home game. It was at their gym,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
and
That's
and
right.
and it was packed. I mean, it was a crazy crowd. Um, and a really fun game, honestly, because it was because of the crowd, right? Because the next night we play Everett, and it's the two West Side teams, and there's like nobody in the gym for the championship. It's just like
All right.
their baseball team happened to be playing there, but like it's just like the night before was maybe a little bit more fun because of the crowd. And then at every game, like how good those every you coach with Trout, like Trout won at one point. He won 4 straight North Region titles. They were cruising. They weren't losing. Like we were lucky if we could pull a game off them every year. They beat us twice that year, and we started out like 12-0. I think we banked a three. We did something else, but we were just like our guys were ready. I mean,
Yeah.
they were just ready to go, and I'm sure the other guys were too. And that start just kind of knocked them off a little bit, but we would just for whatever reason our guys wanted that game, and I think a lot of it again. I think Profit is just a winner. I think Owen's a winner. He's just tough. And I think Bishop and Aiden coming back from losing it, they wanted it. Those guys, those 4 guys, really wanted that championship. And I'll down the line, Tristan, Tristan Bates, Marcus Cole, and Daniel Thomas off the bench from that team. They 2 of them were on the team the year before and took the loss. Marcus had redshirted the year before, and so they were all there for it. Like these dudes wanted that. I mean, they and again, I'm ever wanted that game too, but our guys were just locked in. They were just ready to go. But no, that was so fun and I was so happy for those guys because it wasn't like we were meant to do it, right? Like when you get put up against an undefeated team and you're a 4 seed or whatever, and you got to try to beat North Idaho. Like we weren't supposed to be there, and they just willed it all the way.
Nah, and that kind of it's kind of like the opposite of what happened to us in 17.
It's
Um,
exactly.
you know,
Yep.
we were the 1 seed and we were playing great basketball, and then we just didn't have
Well,
it that day.
if you remember that year, I remember being in my office watching the early games, and NIC lost in the first round. They were really good that year too, right? They were always good. Still, they're still good. But yeah, they lost early. I was like, okay, like we got a shot at this, and then we go and
Oh,
lose. Like
exactly. So one of the cool things about like and the differences of like college basketball to well, pretty much all forms of college basketball to like the
for
NBA,
sure.
like EuroLeague or like overseas is like one game and it's one or done. So it's
And
anything can happen.
and Allie pointed, like my wife pointed this out to me years ago, where like I was like worried about it. I don't know who we were playing, but just like I was like, oh, like we can't beat these guys. Like there's no chance. And she's like, kind of like you're dealing with 18 to 22 year olds. Like you never know. like anyone can beat anybody. Like that's why we see so many upsets because
Right.
like
Right.
it's sure on paper there's more talent on the given team, but like the reality is like anything could affect these guys. And that's, and that you're talking about earlier, like that's really coaching is trying to get these guys to perform at their highest level. It's none of the like the X and O stuff is cool and how you want to play is cool, but it's really just like, can you get these guys to perform as best they can? And if you can, you have a chance against anybody.
Right.
You really do.
For sure. And I think that again, that kind of goes back to you as a coach and how you are such a great leader of young men. And so with that, another great transition is, you know, eyes have been on kind of coaching scene, as coaches, there's a nice community of coaches and people know people, and you actually made the jump from Bellevue College to Eastern Washington, and you went from a head coach at the CC level straight to the D1 level, and that's kind of I don't want to say unprecedented, but you don't hear of that as often. So kind of walk us through how did that all kind of come about? Because I remember I got the text from you. It was in June of 23, so last summer. I Yeah, obviously I still have it, but I just remember like smiling, just being so happy because I remember telling you like, man, this is gonna be you one day, and it's
It's funny. You used to always say that to me. And
yeah,
I'd be like,
all the
all
time.
right, man. I was like, all right. Like,
Right.
thanks. All right. Appreciate it. Like, that's
Right.
nice of you. But so no, when it happened, I remember wanting to send you that text because I was like, you had always said this, and I thought you were crazy. So um no, I mean I honestly a lot of it's luck, I think, right? Like a lot of it was like kind of learning how I needed to be as a coach to be successful. So we did, we were coming off some good years. The other thing I worked with Friends of Hoop Seattle, so I'd always had like players that head coach Dave Riley had recruited over the years. I don't even know how many of them actually ended up at Eastern, but we'd always been talking about players, and I think frankly I don't think Dave likes having to hire people. I just think it's like his least favorite thing to do. And he called me one day and I thought he was calling me, frankly, about Cole Bajema because Cole Bajema was in the portal,
Right.
and Cole had played for me with FOH, and I was kind of like helping him with his recruitment, and we had been talking off and on about Cole for a minute, and so he called me like really early on a Monday morning, and I didn't answer. I was like with the kids doing something. I was like, I'll call Dave back, whatever. We'll talk about Cole later. And I call him like 3 hours later, and I kind of jump in talking about like the updates on Cole, and I can tell he just kind of there was like something else, right? Like when you're like that type of
Yeah.
conversation, where it's like we're done. What else do you got? And then he kind of brought it up. He's like, have you ever considered it? And obviously, right? Like we as competitors, like this is the level in college basketball that you want to get to. But I was a little shocked, right? Like I didn't expect that day. And so I I think I think it was a little bit of luck. I think it was the timing of having those good years, of having some players that were recruitable and in the portal because of the time of what we got now. And I think it's also having a guy with the way roster construction has to go now, where you're changing your whole roster at the Division 1 level every single year now too. That's what we did, right? That's what we did all those years as JUCO coaches, as community college coaches. Like you get used to building a team and having that enclosed season because you never know what's going to happen the next year with these guys. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like I got lucky, and I also got lucky because the guy I work for is awesome, and I don't think that's always the case, right? Like I just, but I got lucky there. I got lucky that his assistant who left was a friend of mine over the years with recruiting. I think he played a major part in kind of getting my name
Mm-hmm.
on the list. And so yeah, timing, luck, all that. We had if we had finished fifth that year, I don't think I'm getting a phone call, right? Like so like Prophet Johnson, Owen, Bishop, and all those guys, like I owe a lot to them. Owe a lot to that team the year before, right? Of getting us to where they were. So yeah, no, I mean it was a little bit. I think it's luck and timing, and sadly, like that's how a lot of life works, right? Like it's just it really is luck and timing, and then I got extra lucky because I happen to have a great boss too. So
No, that's good. No, that's good. Being excited for you, it was different because just a side note, just in my all my years of knowing you, I've never seen you wear Adidas. You would anytime we were like we could
not
be
anymore, baby. I'm back.
right. You're tall, but like go to the store, like the ES or something, you'd be like, hey man, look for this for me. You never once have I ever like, hey, Adam Tone, can you find something like Adidas for me? And so that was like one of the only things. It's just a little side like thing with us. But so that first year as a D1 coach, uh, you're an assistant coach for Eastern Washington. Just talk about um your role with that year and kind of how it was for you, like the transition of like, all right, so I'm not the head guy anymore. I can't call the shots. Like I don't have my hand in everything in the program. These are not all my guys that I recruited. And I know like when you're coaching, you left a lot of the recruiting to like Tibbs or to Tone or to
Yeah.
me, or, but you still had to infirm and you still had a hand in that. But now things are like, all right, now I go back to my assistant
Yeah.
mode. I got to put my assistant hat on, and that's a completely, something you hadn't been in for
9 years.
9 years. So kind of talk about that transition in your year as an assistant.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the recruiting. You're right. Like the recruiting piece as a head coach, it's like Tone, Tibbs, Firm. You guys, Adam, you guys do the legwork, and I'll like when you need me, let me know, and we'll figure it out, and then I'll do what I can. But you guys were really the ones building like the main relationships with those guys. And so that was, yeah, like getting back into that mode, which, it's fun, right? Like, and then starting to kind of see like, okay, the connections I have, like being an AAU coach, being a club coach, being a community college coach, like I had connections both directions, right? Like I knew 4-year coaches, I knew community college coaches, I knew high school coaches, I knew club coaches because of all the places I've been, especially in the Northwest.
Yeah.
And so that came in handy. But yeah, it's funny. Like people always ask about the head coaching piece, and it's like take it or leave it. Right now, like I just it it wasn't an issue at all. And again, it helps. Again, like we talked about, like I really like working for the guy that I'm working for. He allows us to coach. He gives us like big roles, and then we have a lot of say in what we do, and we get a lot of opportunity to coach on the floor. So I'm not missing out on like coaching. Like I'm getting to do all that. And that's the decision making. Like it's nice to just be like, here's 3 things, man. You figure it out. Like good luck. Like it's a little different pressure than when you're that guy. And I think the flip side of it is I've learned like a lot. And he's just he's a really good coach. Has great details. And I think that's been a major thing for me is that not only I can do this forever because I'm learning every single day with the staff and with my head coach.
Oh, yeah, no, that's good. So you guys had some success, and you kind of touched on it earlier. You guys awesome regular season, won the regular season by you said 3 games, then lost in the first round of the
Yeah,
conference tourney. So it's kind of a bittersweet first year for you. It's success.
for
It's
sure.
similar to your last year as a head coach or as a coach at Shoreline. Bittersweet. So then, like a couple months go by, and Kyle Smith gets a job. Where did Kyle Smith get a job at?
Stanford.
He gets the job at Stanford, and so Wazoo opens up. And next thing I'm knowing, and then from from the people that I speak to, well, especially Tone, is like, your head coach, Coach Riley's taking the job at, or got interviewed and gets the job at Wazoo. So I guess my first question were you kind of nervous, like, oh shit, like I only coached 1 year and my coach is leaving, is he gonna take me, or what? Am I fucked? Am I, do I gotta go look for a so I gotta go back to the
Yeah,
Northwest, like
yeah,
to Seattle and find something, or I can imagine like all kinds of scenarios are running through your head, and then just talk about the process and what obviously led you to Wazoo, because the cool thing is it's not it's a kind of a full circle for you because your wife went to Wazoo and now
yeah.
you're coaching at her alma mater. So yeah, just kind of break all of that down for.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's important to stay paranoid, right? In this profession. So I was obviously super excited for Dave and was like there with them when he got the call. All of us were. We were we were in the midst of a recruiting trip for Eastern actually when he got the call um, that he's been hired. But yeah, you don't like in my mind. So I was like until he tells me, I don't know, right? Like I was hoping so, and I was if I was offered, I was absolutely going. Like it was no question that I would go wherever he ended up because I did enjoy that first year with them and I had learned so much. So yeah, so yeah, it was about a week where I was just kind of like uneasy, not sure, but I mean like probably my own paranoia. Like I just had that little bit of built up anxiety and all that, but about a week after he officially got hired, he kind of came to each of us and kind of told us what the plan was and what our roles were going to look like and offered the job. And I, obviously like on the spot was ready to roll. And yeah, it is interesting being here. Like when I met Allie, she had 1 year left here. So I've been to Pullman a couple of times. I visit her, and this last year was her first time going back because she came over when we were in Cheney. We drove down for homecoming. It's the first time she'd been back just to go to a football game, and so it was funny how the timing all kind of worked out, and we're here. It's it's a college town. We got to get used to how we're like it's one thing when she was a student here, like that's what this town is built for. Now she's got
Right.
to we got to figure out how you raise a family here. But I think it's actually it's a great community for that. So it's going to be great. My family moves out in like a week, so we'll get it rolling here after Labor Day and kind of try to get everything put together and figure out what our routine is over here.
No, that's exciting. You guys brand new staff. A lot of your players, some of your top talent like Isaac Jones and Wells, they went, to the NBA. So how is the staff and how do you feel about your team coming into this season? Oh, and you're in which is now the no more. The Pac-12 is all gone. So now you guys are WCC.
Yep,
So
we're
how are you,
WCC
yeah,
for 2 years. Yep.
how are you feeling about this whole transition with the team and into a new conference?
Yep. So we were lucky enough to bring 4 guys with us from Eastern, and then we held on to 2 guys. We held on to Isaiah Watts, and we held on to Parker Garrett, who redshirted last year. But two really great guys who love Washington State and really have done a wonderful job of like promoting how great this place can be to our new guys because everybody else is brand new. I mean, sure, four Eastern guys, not a hard trip down the road. They know each other, but those two have done a great job of kind of bringing this team together. So yeah, so we got those four Eastern guys. We got three other transfers who I think are all going to be really key players for us, and then have a really impressive freshman class. That has a chance, I think, to be really, really good. I don't. It's tough for freshmen the first year, but I think they have a shot down the road to be really good, and potentially this year, to be honest. No, we feel good. We feel good about it. It's the WCC. I think kind of fits our style a little bit better than the Pac-12 would, and so I think that's going to be a good thing. And I mean, it's going to be pretty cool. Like we get to play at Gonzaga in a league game. Like it's going to be insane.
Nice.
You play in same areas and some of these programs and some of these coaches that are just, are historically really great. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be great for our guys. I think we'll be competitive. I don't know what that looks like. I think the coaches poll has us in the middle of the pack. The initial one, I think they do another one, but yeah, we're going to be competitive. We're going to push really hard to challenge that top tier teams in the WCC. We have a really strong preseason schedule, so we'll be tested. But no, it's exciting, and then we don't know. Like the WCC for 2 years scheduling, but then after that, there's like rumors of a million different things that could happen. So there's a little like, we're a little, I want to say uneasy, but a little unsure of what's next. But it's exciting for us, right? Like we're for us, we're coming from the Big Sky. Like this is cool. This is great. We're at Wazoo. This is awesome. Like what we don't need the Pac-12. Like whatever, we're good. Like
Right.
it's a big jump for us. So we're pumped. We're excited about it, and we are excited about our group. We have I think a group of really talented, strong players, and they're really good kids, which is also a reason why I like working for who I'm working for because we recruit the right guys. I think.
No, that's huge. That's huge, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching you guys this year. Man, I appreciate you taking the time. I just have a couple more,
Anytime.
couple more.
Yep.
I know you guys got practice later on, so I just want to get you out of here. But first, I got a couple quick hitters for you. First thing
Got you.
come to
I'll
your
try to talk
mind.
fast then.
Oh no, no, I'm loving this. I mean, shit, you and me talk all the time, so I mean, we could do
Yeah.
this. It could be a 5 hour pod. But what is something that people may not know about coaching at the community college level?
I think people have an idea that like you wear a lot of hats, but like I don't think anybody understands how many hats you wear at that level. That you're academic advisor, you plan the budget, you plan the travel, you're coaching obviously on the court, you're recruiting, you're scout. It's just the amount, and I think it's just a great way for young coaches. Honestly, like if you want to get into coaching, do that for a year or two
Yeah.
because you learn every aspect of what college basketball is.
That's just on the basketball on the school level. You didn't even talk about the
Yeah, that doesn't
personal.
talk about
Yeah,
everything else. Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're like fucking mentors and brothers and financial advisors and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. But okay. Um, so you've been to championship games, coaching some big games. What is there a memorable game in your coaching career, a game or two that kind of stands out to you?
Yeah. I mean, like beating Wenatchee and beating NIC was those were two games where because I just don't think anyone thought we had any chance in either one of those games. I mean, even more so than the championship game. Like the championship game was amazing, but it was like we played at such a high level that I was stressed the whole time. But like the guys just had it. Like there's
Yeah.
not much we had to worry about. North Idaho and Wenatchee was like they were down to the wire. Every possession mattered, and no one thought we were supposed to win those games. So those two games will always kind of stick out as like games that I don't know how we did it, but we pulled it out.
Okay. We talked about this previously, but is there a player that you coach that mirrored how you are both as a
Yeah.
player.
I mean, yeah,
So we talked about that. I
it,
see.
it's been for sure.
I do see. I'm watching all your teams over the years, and I'm so connected to you and Tone that and Tibbs and Firm that I've seen your Bellevue teams too. That I see. I saw Maui.
Maui for sure.
I saw Maui
Maui,
a lot too.
Maui, Owen
Or two
Moriarty.
out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think Maui and Ben though, definitely those two stick out. Ben Olsen, like I'm a point guard, so like my point guards have always kind of been um, the guys that I think I relate to the best because I understand like what they're going through and what they're having to deal with. But yeah, no, Matt, the relationship with Maui is great. Maui ran half our practices when he was playing for me. So I mean, I didn't like I'd be like at a soccer game. I'd show up. We'd already be warmed up. We'd be working on something. Like, cool, you got this, Mal. Like, go ahead. Maui and Ben were just they did everything that year. So yeah, all those guys. And TJ, like TJ,
What about TJ?
these uh uh you know yeah, the guards, I think I love my big guys, don't get me wrong, but the guards have always had a special place in my heart just because that's what I was.
Yeah, and you yelled. I mean, and when I was with you, starting from the jump, all of our guards, you yelled at the most. Remember?
Yeah.
Who am I? Who am I? And you'd be like, Dad,
Oh, Derek.
what are you doing, Derek? Dude, he's sitting there, just little shit
Yeah.
like that. Because he was our point guard, or he played combo
Yeah.
for us, but still, like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, you're hardest on our point guards, and obviously we know why. But okay, I
Yeah.
got a couple more for you. So what's some advice you would give to a rising coach who wants to get to where you're at?
Yeah. I do think coaching community college basketball is a great way to understand like encompassing everything in a program. I think that's a great spot to get experience, and it does give you that networking where you're going both directions, where you're recruiting high school kids, so you have networking there and club coaches, but then you're also trying to move guys on, so you get to talk to 4-year coaches, so you get involved in the mix that way. And then I think be yourself and whatever that is. And sometimes you don't know who you are when you're 25 to 30 and you're a young coach, but once you can figure that out, be yourself.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, I got two more. I promise you, two more.
Now you're good. You're good.
What are you most proud of as a during your whole tenure as a coach, going back to Redlands when you're an assistant, to Bellevue, to Shoreline, back to Bellevue, to Eastern, and now Wazoo. What are you most proud of in your time as a coach?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely the relationships. I mean, just like this is like that. It really is the reason why you do this, and it's such a weird job. Most people are clocking in and in an office, and like this is like every day you're building camaraderie with people, and relationships matter so much in your ability to actually coach somebody. And so if you skip that part, it's really hard to be good at this, I think. And so yeah, for me, it's like knowing that I can. There's 20. I've been coaching for a long time now. It's crazy. 20 years of guys that I can hit up that are former teammates or I coached or and will randomly text or call me, like Peyton texted me this morning. Just like
Yeah,
it's having that's why you do it. That's the best part.
definitely, definitely. And last one, as you know, I'm running this, and help running this podcast with my guys. I don't think a lot of our followers knew that, or might have known that I was coaching. I coached for 7 years at Shoreline. Uh, I guess I'm kind of trying to hear what you have to say about me. What it?
Turn back around on you.
Yeah, no, that's how we're gonna end it. It's not about you anymore. It's about me.
I like it. I
Um,
like it.
nah, but just what did I guess what how did I help you as a coach?
Yeah.
How did I help you evolve as a coach? And kind of like what I don't know what my strengths are. I know what my strengths are, but like how did you view me as your assistant?
Yeah. So I think you had the most important quality, and it's the first thing that Steve told me when I got the job. And he said that you're interested in staying on, and he said that you're loyal. And I think I at any level and any staff, loyalty is so key, right? If you have an assistant that's trying to take your job the whole time, like that's not going to work, right? So I think that, but I think where you helped me improve, and I think you know this, is the relationships, is building a bond with these guys, and again learning that it was okay to kind of be their big brother and coach them, and not there needed to be a separation, right? Like you didn't need to be this dude who they had no communication with, no relationship with. Like they would still respect you and learn from you and take your coaching probably at a better, what I've learned, much higher rate if there's actually a real relationship there and they trust you. And so I think that to me, like that's what that was part of my process of learning how to be a coach. Like it was those years being with you, understanding that concept and the process of relationship building and just being better at it. Because like for a really long time, I don't think, especially early on, I wasn't great at that. So I think for me, those were the major things. Like we talked about the basketball stuff, like frankly, anybody can get out there and coach a little bit of basketball. Like that, the reality is like, but that relationship building, that trust building is what really does it. So, no, that to me, that's the greatest thing I learned from that time.
Well, well, I appreciate the words, and I'll
For
send
sure.
I'll send you the Venmo for the
Hey,
life later.
yeah, no, you were a hell of a coach, and what you did so well, and the people in Seattle know this is like you helped everybody move on. It didn't matter if they played for us, they played against us, if they were a kid in high school, if they came to you, you helped everybody, and you had relationships at every level, so it allowed you to help so many more kids. Like some guys only focus on trying to help their best players, which is
Oh,
great, but like you need to be able to help place everybody if you're really going to be great at this. So no, man, it was a pleasure. I love that time. I loved it.
well, I appreciate the words, man, and I just again I think the world of you, man. You've inspired so many young men, and you've done so much for the basketball community in the Northwest, for the guys we coached, and the guys you coached from, FOH, from you got, your Bellevue team, Shoreline. And so, I think the world of you, and obviously I've told you that many a times, and I think you're destined for bigger and better things, and I can't wait to see what the future holds, but I'm just so excited for this opportunity for you, because it's deserved. I know what
Appreciate
you
that,
went
man.
through. I know what you went through. I was there for a lot of it, even after we stopped coaching. We're like brothers, so it's like I still know what, you still keep me in the loop with everything. So, man, again, I want to salute you. I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So yeah, that's our that's a wrap for our interview with Coach Brady, assistant coach at Washington State University. Coach, thank you again. I love you. I got
It's
tons of
love. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, man.
thank you. Shout, to Adam here, BlackTop SmackTalk. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll be following Wazoo this season, even though all my guys are
Love
Huskies. So
it. Go Cougs, and shout out Ben Steinberg one more time too.
yeah,
Our
shout out
guy.
to Ben. We love you, brother. All right,
Rest in
Coach.
peace, man.
I'll be talking to you soon. Thank you
All
again.
right.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you.